Alright, I've been working on making a presentation that I want to make into a website so people can really peruse it. I might make a kind of a logbook style way to comment, or people can reply in the videos, but you'll be able to peruse it yourself. I'm using some software. I've been working on some user interface software. So I'll just go through kind of as a sneak peek, and I won't be giving the URL at the moment. Okay, so the public dialogue server, okay, so the first slide is just the overview. The public dialogue server is this is all brain dump level. It's not the first draft. I'll release the first draft for feedback, but I am going to just read it. We'll see how it goes. You know, the grammar might not even be right. But here we go. Alright, the public dialogue server is a project to provide a not-run-for-profit internet server which ensures intellectual property rights, both ownership and fair use, for expressions intended to be part of the public dialogue. The bylaws of the organization will further define what the quote-unquote public dialogue is taken to be, and will inform the criteria used by the server for any administrative decisions at a given time. The organization will not necessarily be made an actual not-for-profit due to cost in the first phase. However, it will have a membership-oriented mission statement and initiate guarantees to its members through use agreements in the first phase. See the legal budget article. And yeah, so I'm going to consult. There's room. The budget calls for consulting a lawyer. If he says that with the goals and the money we have, but it's a pretty small legal budget, so I have a feeling it's going to take more time and money to do not-for-profit. If after the first year the community is alive, phase 2 we'll be discussing and see if we're in a position to do that. You know, it's possible a not-for-profit would come along and want to sponsor or help us, but we need a certain amount of independence, right, to define things, you know, so they work the way we want. Okay, this website, well, I'm just reading from now, that I'll give you the link to eventually, exists to present the phase 1 plan. Alright, the to-do list. We have to complete the action plan and put the website up for it. That becomes the same thing. I basically have all the details, and then when you put them up, you know how you have to, it's like, oh yeah, I do more research. And we just ran some numbers to make sure that with co-location kinds of bandwidth, how many videos can we stream, and basically we can be streaming, you know, 700 to 1,000 videos at the level of bandwidth we're planning to buy, and the budget is given. We'll buy a server, we'll obtain the hosting agreement from a co-location host. I have it quoted $150 a month now. It is possible, and we'll consider, if we save enough money, co-locating somewhere else. You know, you can mail your host to people in the mainland and it'll be a little bit cheaper, but then again, for the very beginning, for 6 months or even the first year, it'd be nice to just be right here with it. Once it's down pat and we know what we have, sure, we can send it off, and because the next time we make a new, you know, change, we can buy another server and we'll be co-locating it as well. And you know, once you have multiple servers supporting maybe 1,000 users, let's say you had 4 servers, then it gets easier to swap them in and out. You know, you could send a new server, have an old one sent to you, and work on it. It could be done through the mail, is my point. But for when you just have one server and you don't want to be down, you don't want to wait for mailing and the risks involved with mailing hardware. So I want someone local. So I got a quote for 150, and I'm asking for some more details on the bandwidth. But from what's more or less standard, like I say, it could be 700 simultaneous videos I'm calculating. All right, if you don't co-locate, then for a third of the price of co-location, you can only support, like, you know, you can do a lot simultaneous, but per month you could support like 30 videos a day that someone watches, so that's not good. That's why we're co-locating. Get the bandwidth cheaper. All right, it's also possible, you know, to get a dedicated line. That makes the bandwidth even cheaper. But there's just these entry costs, so obviously we're not going to do that. Co-location is the right middle ground right now for wholesale wholesaling the bandwidth. All right, machine reception. I'll probably change the name of that section, but when I get the machine, it'll have Linux installed. Apache will be installed, but if it's not turned on, set up to turn on at boot or whatever, I'll do that. I'll also configure it with the pseudo streaming plugins for Apache. The server will be put on the commodity internet. In other words, my own cable modem. Only a few people would be able to stream a video at the same time. It'd be ideal for just 1 or 2 people, to 3 people, which I don't know, maybe a dozen, to at least test being logged in and whatever features we want to do. And the people that have invested in the project, some number of them. Maybe they'll all have access, but only 5 or 6. I'll limit how many people can be on it because they'll be using my internet here. But at least people can log in and see the progress of me setting up the server and help decide that this is good enough. Let's put it on the real internet. Okay, I'll be installing this thing called FFmpeg, which does the conversion and control. It can also change video. It can edit video, add things, overlays, and stuff. We'll just be using it so that when people upload a video, we convert it for them. But there will be a cost associated with that. If you are smart enough to upload your video in the right format, okay, that's less expensive because we have bandwidth. Like if you do a really fat video upload that we have to downgrade so that we can stream it, we have to, that's like streaming 5 versions of it when you upload. So it costs 5 as much. So there will eventually at least be tracking of that kind of thing and an incentive program to get the software to export stuff in the format we want. On the other hand, we'll do something that most people don't seem to do, which is tell you the format we want. Like I would like to upload in an efficient format that uploaded quickly and everything, and I knew what I was going to get in terms of the video quality afterwards. With YouTube, but you can find sites that tell you, but YouTube should just be saying, here's what we really want. I'm going to also install a blog and podcast software. That doesn't really take anything compared to the video. Audio can, but it doesn't take anything compared to the video, right? So, but I decided this is a public dialogue thing. This is how I'm going to also empower commenters, for example, because we'll have blogs, and in a blog you'll have a little code that can point to a video, and it'll all be very integrable if you want, or if you just find blog. But it'll be more. All kinds of media should be embraced. Really, it doesn't change anything. The technological challenge, as it were, is the video and setting things up so you don't waste your resources. Now, the first draft of the video upload and plug-in ability will be installed. That means I will do some programming if necessary to make sure that we can upload videos. I'll tie things together. I don't think there is programming, more configuring, maybe plugging a few things in. I have to have an upload the file thing, and it has to feed into FFmpeg and then put it where the video playback system is going to be able to see it, know where it is, and index it in the process and things like that. And also the server is supposed to support other people like Gary and Fred and whomever has their own site. This is supposed to support, you can embed videos from this site. So I'm going to make at least one pass to at least configure whatever exporting there is of information and make sure the plugin, the embeddable player kind of thing is working. It should come pretty much working. And also if there's anything I think I can enhance, like, hey, it does this, but it does it in a particular way that isn't as easy to use, maybe I'll convert it to JSON, a JSON format or expose. I'll make a little API. It'll be limited to what is available, but I'll do the glue to hook that into something that begins this process of this thing is going to be used. A lot of members might never come to the main site because they'll have their own site that uses our database, and they can see everything at our site anyway, at our database, from theirs. And so and there'll be alternate ways to get in there, and plus if somebody breaks a rule at one of these secondary sites, he can be kicked, but he doesn't lose his videos. We're the place that secures your ultimate right there if this particular community wants to say, well, we're exclusive to you. I could get into more of that later, but okay, this is more to do. So there's a couple pages more of this to dump out. I have in notes and in my head. So anyway, the machine, when it's complete, you know, we say, hey, that looks pretty good. We deliver it to the co-location provider, but it really has one out. Okay, the participant member bylaws. I've started calling members participant members. Let me try to read this. I'm sure this is, again, crap English at the moment, but I'm dumping this down. I had to do a little bit of work to get this to look the way I wanted. So now I'm getting more of the documents in. The purpose of the public dialogue server is to provide assurance that free speech and intellectual property rights of participants are respected. It is crucial to remember that there is both intellectual property concerns and fair use concerns. That is, it is possible to misuse other people's material, right? We acknowledge it is possible to do that. It's not just you can do whatever you want with it. But it is also possible to use it appropriately, right? That's what we call fair use. I use the word member and participant synonymously, and I started using the word, or the phrase, participant member. I like the word participant. Maybe I could just drop member. There's always the phallic double meaning in there. But, okay, while the PDS will maintain a platform of its own position, I'm sorry, that's not well done, but the point is the public dialogue server community will be able to vote and maintain this platform of what it thinks should be fair copyright law. It might be different from the current law of the land at the moment, but we follow the current law of the land at the moment. The problem right now, there is a problem with, the Mickey Mouse copyright laws and the Digital Millennial Copyright Act and all this. But there's an even bigger problem in that the laws we have right now, like fair use laws, are not respected at all. There's complaint-oriented systems to protect everything, public morality, things that aren't even illegal, and copyright, which is an important thing to protect. But it's unbalanced because there's stuff for that and nothing for fair use. There's literally, and whereas the public dialogue, well, anyway, I go into this. Insofar as there is such a consensus among participants, we'll have our own platform. It's crucial, though, that the bottom line interpretation of appropriate use is the law at the moment. Essentially, anything, that's our ethic. Whether you agree with the law or not, we want to be reliable on, we go with the law. Right? We get a legal order saying something has to come down from a judge, then it has to come down. Yeah. You can always imagine an exception where we're the last one standing before the Nazis take over and we fight even the law, but that's, I would rather shut down before that at this point. I really just want a place where our free speech as it stands is protected. I think from that is a good platform to be active on those issues, right? So stick with that, and I think we'll have a good basic community ethic that we can share, and that'll be robust and help us survive. Essentially, anything that is, on the one hand, considerable as participation in public dialogue, as the community has defined it, is allowed. Anything you want to say is allowed unless specifically prohibited by law. Okay, and the gray area, we're going to do that with content warnings. Right? You can think of them an 18 older, but we won't do that. We'll do violence warning, nudity warning, whatever we think appropriate. I personally hardly, I don't need a warning, but as a parent, I can see that, well, it's good to at least have a warning. How you prove that you are that, if it's like an age warning, is another issue, but mostly it can just be, hey, there's violence and people don't want to see it. Talking about adults. Now, how we deal with children is something I don't go into, and maybe somebody could bring that up. While it can't be correct to say that intellectual ownership is respected on most video servers, fair use seems protected not at all, and a complaint-driven system leaves big holes in any sort of defense based on IP concerns or moral standards. People that take part in public dialogue tend to be debating, and this increases likelihood of a complaint. In a complaint-driven system, this means a disproportionate amount of administrative action affects participants in a public dialogue which should be protected at those sites. This is not because they are violating the rules of more, but because they are in a dialectic process with conflict and a complaint-sensitive system. A lazy, complaint-sensitive system. To the contrary, fair use exists largely to allow for public dialogue, such as art criticism, defending a point from public criticisms, and so on. This allowance seems not taken into account at current sites. And they don't have to, it's private, so we want to create a shared public-private co-op, not-for-profit, or whatever is appropriate in the terms of a cooperative thing that respects the law of the land, all the edges of the sword. And to a degree, I continue, it's this particular lack of the current system that motivates an absolute need, I threw in the word absolute just to be ironic, for a public dialogue server system. These points will continue to be refined, but the mission involves providing the following assurance to members of the PDS participating in public dialogue. All administrative actions start immediately and formally. They involve human review and are represented on a dedicated issue tracking page for the user in the user's account area, and to a lesser degree publicly. You know, this is private stuff, but to a degree that there should be public information and time periods where information and the results become public, that'll be a part of it too. I'm going to work on this bullet list a lot more in the next week or so. Any content that is not illegal but which draws an administrative action will in any case remain available to the user in question. Strict schedules will be followed as much as possible. Flexibility in the process will at least be trackable, right? So there'll be flexibility in the process. We'll say, hey, we're going to review it in 24 hours, and then we're going to do it another day, or people are going to meet. If those, you know, if time changes and we have to be flexible, or there's volunteers from the community doing this, it'll at least be tracked on that issue page, so you'll know the current status. And if somebody has said, oh, well, I put it off, you can't just have put it off and you don't know about it. On that page, it'll say, sorry, it was deferred for another week because my kid has the flu. Okay. Just to use an example of the issues with volunteer-driven things. Once you get through a review process, you might need a very particular person or a committee to meet or whatever. I don't really like that stuff, but you have to get it as smooth as possible and keep it as effective and short, you know, drain as little energy as possible with as much satisfaction on the parties, right? So, classification of videos behind a content warning is the preferred means of acting on a video that violates some system standard or community standard of something that's not illegal, like nudity or particular kinds of nudity, and so on and so forth. I'll go into more of those. The server costs, I have three things I priced at one place just because they had a great pricing, a lot of options, and so I'm planning to get a 2U rack mountable server. There's three examples here. They all cost, this one's $27.51, this one's $24.59, this one's $28.16. They all, because my budget for it was $3,000, they all basically have room for 2 processors and a bunch of memory. I've got one, you know, multi-core processor, not even as many cores near as you could do. And just so that it can be scalable, though, because if we get a lot of people, it'd be nice just to slap in another processor, some other memory for the other one, and then if need be, you go back and you upgrade the first processor, and the machine can keep up with the bandwidth we bought. Because now I think the bandwidth is going to allow, like I said, 700 to 1,000 videos streaming at once. Now, we have RAID and stuff like this, but and that's 700 low quality videos, like where it's narration, it's not action. And if you want really pretty high bandwidth stuff, then what I've done in this plan is, you know, to me a video, I was using a 10-minute long talking head sort of quality, you know, good sound. You could have some music, but not so much the action, high frame rate kind of thing. Where there's a lot of action in the whole frame. That kind of video, 320 by whatever, 10 minutes, but I think just today I was doing a 15-minute version. But the other thing is we can just, you know, bandwidth-wise, we should be able to stream the 700 or more videos up and down, and the pages take out of that too. That's some of the bandwidth. So anyway, the server keeping up with that is something else, and with the RAID and stuff, we'll have to see the performance on, can it, you know, what can it do. So if you want to do really pretty high frame rate, high def stuff, then when I say is one video, your one video from you might be worth 8 of those. And so, you know, if you want to do one of those a day, you might need 8 of these $1, you know, subscriptions. So that's how that's going to work. Anyway, here's the cost. I also am going to have stuff about the bandwidth in there. And then the legal issues, out of the $7,000 budget, I've got, I need a budget, one obviously. The legal issues, $200, $2,000 rather, that's like nothing, especially since I'm really only going to do a couple hours of talking to a lawyer, just so he can say, hey, here's some obvious thing you better concern yourself with ahead of time, and also maybe to help us in various ways. Well, this one I worked on here a little bit just recently, so let me go through, I guess. And then this is pretty much the last one. So, the primary legal issue for the public dialogue server involves legal issues related to copyright and fair use law. I want to ask them, because we're going to do this thing of have this ethics, so we better know. And obviously, with just a few hours, well, okay, so the budget $2,000. It's like $500 to talk about the things we want to talk about and get some advice about the organization, what we're doing, and then $1,500 to act on part of that advice, which will be like, well, how should we protect ourselves as an organization here in phase one, given that we want to be a not-for-profit, but I think that's going to take a while and be expensive, and there's a lot of details with that. And I'm not entirely sure that's better than a co-op of people where it's officially for-profit as an organization, but all the members own it, and that might be just as good a protection. And then we have the issue of which is cheaper, to just slap down and get your whatever, your S corp or whatever, and then nobody goes to jail for any mistakes, like burning down the co-location place because we got a bad machine or something. It's literally, seriously, it's this protection that we might just get that right now. So that's not very much money. It's just a couple hours but this is because I've done this with lawyers before. I found if you educate yourself, or what you're asking for, in an hour, you can talk to a lawyer, get a lot of advice, and even they can write a letter for you, or maybe in another hour. And this stuff adds up if you do hours and hours of it. But $500 of lawyer time well used can go a long way. So I want him also to help with the organizational documents, such as this participant member bylaws. I want him to read it and say, what do you think? Am I just crazy? What words should we use? Advice on what sort of legal organization status to pursue, as I just said, and the professional legal assessment and advice regarding any obligations and responsibilities the organization should be aware of. Things that the lawyer's going to go, what, you're going to want to do this, or, I'm not going to probably get somebody too expert here in internet. I would not mind going to another lawyer if people want to recommend. I know at least lawyers locally, they're just not going to be internet, but I will go to a business lawyer. The budget gives $2,000. I would love some pro bono second opinions and third opinions as well, by the way. The budget gives $2,000 to address these issues to whatever degree possible for the initial launch of the server. This is a minimal amount of money for competent legal advice and amounts to a couple of hours consultation and the cost of registering some form of legal status to be decided on the initial consultation with the lawyer. Although minimal, this will put us on the right footing, I believe. At the small scale that we're doing things means the risks are not great. We'd be safe enough just to put up the server and do it, really. But I believe in legal issues are an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's why I think we can do it with this minimal amount, and also the cost of, yes, let's register. You have to pay $500 for this or that to make an organization that then can have bylaws that are binding. Whether it's for profit or not, you can have bylaws that are binding, and we can say, hey, when you're a member, while you're a member that year, you're one of the owners, and you get to say how the money works, and the money stays in the organization. There's never going to be dividends. That could be in the bylaws and stuff like that. I would like to go not-for-profit as well. We're going to look into that. Anybody that knows how cheaply that can be done. But I'm not going to just do it like not-for-profit yourself at a do-it-yourself thing. I want a lawyer. What's the cost of doing it the quote-unquote right way that people with the money do it, and we can minimalize our version of that, but I want realistic budgets in that. I know that my $2,000 budget will do a certain kind of legal advice, self-serve. You go to the lawyer and he tells you what you can research further to make your own guesses and reduce any obvious risks that would be negligent, and at least your risk comes into, well, this seems okay to me. Now it's going to work the following way. As soon as I get the budget, boom, I go to the lawyer, talk to him, ask him these questions, right? I'll give him a copy of the participant member rights and ask him to spend a half an hour, reviewing it, scratching things or editing it, or an hour, whatever he thinks appropriate. He might skim it right there to get an idea. I will buy the equipment. Hopefully I leave this meeting with the lawyer where, of course, he's not going to say, no, don't buy the equipment, wait to find this out. Hopefully I can buy the equipment. Maybe he'll say, keep the receipts, or he might say, set up a separate check account right away. Well, I'm going to do that anyway, but he might say this or that or the other. Make it a business account, not a personal account. Whatever, I'll follow that. I'll talk to him first so that I can do that. I will set up the equipment immediately after I get it, and then I'll be consulting the lawyer again. At least in my mind, some of these will change based on everybody's schedule and stuff, but I'll set it up, and by then the timing will be I'll consult with the lawyer again. He'll give me his edited copy if he has one, and this kind of stuff will get clear. Anything I should absolutely do, not to be a moron on the legal side of things. I'll publish his version of the bylaw for participant members, and we will, as a community, everybody that has contributed to starting this thing and is planning to use it will be the final editors of that document, and then that's what we'll use for sort of our Bill of Rights or whatever we want to call it. I'm going to call it the dirt for this plan. Started calling it. I'm going to edit some of this, but because it doesn't use this term, but the participant member bylaws. And then we'll go co-locate and launch it all. Okay, so I guess that's everything.